everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hello. Thank you for joining. This is the final conversation for the Black Women's PAC third annual Policy, Politics, and Donor Summit. As you all know and are anticipating, we have the dynamic LaTosha Brown with us, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. She is awfully busy and has a lot going on today, so we are going to make this really quick. We're going to ask a few questions and get to it. So thank you so much for joining us today, LaTosha. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you all for the work that you all are doing. Let me say before I even continue, I'm going to always be honored to talk to the Black Women's PAC, right? And so that in itself, that whole name says a lot in itself. So thank you, sisters, for having me here. And I wish I didn't have so much going on right now, but you all can imagine. I'll share a little bit more about what is happening. But anyway, thank you. I really appreciate you, Tracy, for having me.
Well, thank you. So let me just give you guys a brief, bio on LaTosha Brown. She is an award-winning organizer, philanthropic consultant, political strategist, and jazz singer, with over 20 years experience working in the nonprofit and philanthropy sectors on a wide variety of issues related to political empowerment, social justice, economic development, leadership development, wealth creation, and civil rights. She is co-founder, along with Cliff Albright, of Black Voters Matter, the Black Voters Matter Fund. And they were really instrumental in Doug Jones' win in 2016. And now I'm sure you guys have seen in somewhere, the big bus. And LaTosha Brown and Cliff have done just a fabulous job of working the southern sector of the United States and winning elections across states. And now she is, in Georgia, her home, flipping the state blue, and now trying to win the 2 U.S. Senate seats. So just LaTosha, if you wanted to say something first, or I can ask my question, because what we really want to know is Texas is really trying to follow the Georgia lead. And we are really looking at what you guys did. How did you do it? How did you form a coalition to achieve such great success in flipping the state? And now, with the power of moving forward, and your suit with the Attorney General's office, with the Secretary of State's office. So please go right ahead. Let's just let LaTosha
I sure will. So I will. Can you hear me? I want to make sure you can hear my turn the camera off so you can get a better, I know it's a bad service over here. So a couple of things. So one, let me say, if there is any state that I think has the potential to shift, is actually not Georgia. Even though we're here, but it's actually Texas. Texas is a ball game changer, right? That the number of electoral college votes there, the significance there, even the significance of what we've seen in the gains of Black women in Houston County, the number of women that you all have elected as judges in the 2016 and 17 elections. So I just want to lift up, in addition to that, the majority of the state, which I'm quite sure this is you all state, so you can probably tell me better, that the majority of the state under the age of 18 are children of color. And so what we know is that the demographics have shifted and are in fact in your favor. What that means is that tells us two things. One, it tells us that we have the numbers to be able to organize. We have the demographics are on our side. The second thing, though, it also tells us is that we have to organize that power. That, power realize is power that is organized. It's kind of the same way that I always say about Thomas Edison. They credit him around, hold on one second, y'all. I want to make sure this is the Secretary of State's office. One second, y'all, just 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. LaTosha took time out and, speaking to us. What came about is that they are in the lawsuit, and, was called to the governor's office, and they are having these negotiations and conversations today. So she is still taking a moment to speak with us, and also navigating the lawsuit and their participation. So I thank you very much for your patience. And, we know LaTosha is coming with it. So thank you so much. It is a good to hear that Texas is on the map, and that Georgia is looking at us. LaTosha Brown and her group are looking at us. We had a conversation.
I'm sorry.
She's back. Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Listen, I'm so sorry, y'all. Let me
Mm,
set the tone of what's happening, and so you'll know
mm,
why I'm a little kind of doing a lot of doing too much right
mm,
now. Is that the Secretary of State? Let me back up. I'm gonna share you. I'm gonna give you all some context of what's happening now, and then I'll go into why I think or what are the similarities in Texas, and then just kind of end with what I think that you all can do there. But essentially, in the state of Georgia, as you all know, this was ground zero for voter suppression, and so I've been working on voter suppression issues for over 20 years. I actually ran for office as a young woman. I was 28 years old, and there is and you know, ran for a statewide election, and that election was essentially stolen from me
mm,
as a result of voter suppression. And so the because of that, I've actually been very, very adamant about fighting voter suppression for a long time in throughout the South. And so Georgia, fast forward, we know what happened in Stacey Abrams' race. I'm quite sure most of y'all are aware of what happened when she ran for governor in 2018. We've been very diligent about fighting around on that particular issue.
mhm,
But it didn't stop, y'all. What essentially happened is in 2019, now after 2018, the whole world saw that Georgia, in fact, the now governor, who was Secretary of State at the time, had abused his office and his position to steal
mhm.
and to purge people from the rolls. The oppression doesn't change until you stop it.
Right.
So in 2019, October 2019, 328,000 people were dropped from the voting rolls in Georgia. Of those 328,000, we discovered that working with an investigative journalist, Greg Pallas, and a team of data hygiene experts that actually do data maintain the hygiene of data lists and do
Mhm,
data mining for Fortune 100 companies, for Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, the top companies in the country. We actually had them as part of our team of experts that looked at the list and discovered that 198,000, basically 200,000 of the people on the 328,000 list never moved. They never should have dropped. They never should have been dropped from the list.
wow.
That in fact, their process is they actually do this for a living. This is what they do. Their
Mhm,
process actually looks at the list, and they compare it over 200 different sources to make
mhm.
sure that the list is verified. The fact of the matter is 198,000 people literally were dropped off the voting rolls that never should have been dropped off the voting rolls under the guise that they had moved, only for us to
They
discover
hadn't moved.
they, they had never moved. Not only had they not moved, but we talked to 12 of the voters this week that we reached out to off the list. One of the voters we talked to has been living in the same place for 21 years, has never moved. The other one has been living 19 years. So you all get the point. I don't have to go into
Yes.
detail. You all get the point of what
The
happened.
evil.
So
Mhm,
we filed a lawsuit against the state of Georgia, against the Secretary of State's office. And as a result, there was a report that came out from the ACLU in September. And so we gave notice to
mhm,
them. This was happening. We wanted them put back on. We sued the state. We actually got a hearing in the midst of 3 days before the election because we wanted an injunction to make sure that those 198,000, either the state shows us proof of
mhm.
how they took off the 198,000 or they're restored immediately. The long story
Right.
short, the Voter Registration Act requires that there is a licensee vendor who verifies who is a licensee of the
Okay.
Postal Service
Yeah.
that verifies the list, and that never took place. So we don't know where in the world they got these 200,000 voters from. We got a
Mm,
sense of where they came from, but
mm,
there's no legitimate reason. And so
mm-mm.
today, the judge made a ruling. The long story short, the judge made a ruling and suggested and acknowledged, one, the courts didn't want to get in and disrupt the election because the
Mm,
courts didn't, and however, they found that there was some discrepancies, and so they asked both parties to sit
right.
down to work through that, our experts and their experts. And so the Secretary of State's office has been said that they didn't have notice, so we wanted to make sure they had notice. and they've been avoiding us for a week. So we showed up with our whole
Yeah.
legal team and as plaintiffs today. So that's where, so what's happening right now is my legal team are calling me because we're literally trying to not go. We've lost a whole week
Right.
of voting that people have been taken off the voting rolls unrighteously. So the significance of Texas is that, one, you all have the demographics. You have the demographics that literally can make the difference in that state. All of the stars are in alignment for Texas to be a state that actually can flip, right? How we did it in Georgia, and I'll just kind of note 3 quick things. Essentially, there's no way around it but to say it. It was organized. There's nothing else.
Yes.
There was no magic pill. There was no anything. It was good organizing that is taking place. That means that we've had to lose a little bit. So one of the things that philanthropy, I also come out of a space of working in donor spaces and in philanthropy. Part of my, the last 15 years of my life, that's where I've worked in. And part of what will happen is, part of success comes from also a part of the path of the story of success actually is peppered with failure. And unfortunately, what we've seen in many places in the South, that when there's there's resources put in an election and the election is lost, and then people pull out. It's like, no, we're not going to do that anymore because it doesn't work. And so I'm raising this because I think it's 3 things that I think are going to be important. We have to really recognize that protracted struggle takes time. There's an arc of time. And that part of the way that you make change is that you have to make an investment, knowing that you may not see the immediate results, but over time. So what you're seeing in Georgia now did not happen in 2018, did not happen in 2017. This has been over a decade or more of organizing. And what I mean about organizing is there was a culture in the state of Georgia. I'm from Alabama, so perhaps I'm a little biased, but there was a culture in the state of Georgia, particularly in places like Atlanta, that the groups didn't work together. They were very competitive. There were a few resources that were placed in here, and they would be very competitive, and it would be a one-off. And so what we've seen in the last decade is there were a couple of things I'll just note. One, there was an establishment of a C3 table to actually help serve as a coordinating role to get people to the table, to really be able a vehicle to get resources so that it wasn't so competitive. There would be more of a sharing of resources and a sharing of strategy, and almost as a coordinated campaign. I certainly think that has made a difference in terms of how groups work together collectively. The second thing that
can I ask you, is that the table Pro Georgia? We talked to Tamika Atkins last week, and she talked about a table.
That
so
is
that's
exactly
the same table. Okay, got
that's
you.
the same
Yes.
table, table. So you talk to the right people.
Okay.
The second thing is that, that part of what there's been an overemphasis on the urban, what I call an urban strategy, right? And what I mean by that is that, yes, Houston and Dallas can make a decision, in Austin, and Houston and Dallas in particular can make a decision, a big impact on how the state goes, right?
Yes.
But if you look at other smaller communities and counties and you aggregate those votes, they can actually make a difference. And so what we realized is that even when there was investment in the state of Georgia, a lot of that was only concentrated in Metro Atlanta. Now, the truth of the matter is the numbers in Metro Atlanta, if you got 100% turnout in Metro Atlanta, you don't even need those other counties. You got the population here, right? But the reality is we're not going to get 100% of turnout. We know this. And so the way that you make up for that difference is that you have to literally be able to create a statewide strategy. And so for us, we're working currently in 50 counties in the state of Georgia, right? So that not just Metro Atlanta, but places like Albany, Georgia, Savannah, Athens, and Columbus, and that we're making sure that there's more coordination around the rural and an urban strategy, and that we're doing work that is nuanced around the messaging in the rural areas and the urban areas. For example, in many of the rural communities, because we're in a state like Texas, that refused to expand ACA. And so as a result, we've had dire consequences because of that. And so many of the rural hospitals, we've had 2 hospitals to close in the last few months during the height of this
Right.
pandemic. And so
Yes,
that's had a
yes,
particularly devastating impact on rural communities, not just because of the health access, but they're major employers in those areas. When a hospital or community college closes in the rural areas, it is devastating. And so part of our message in those areas had to be nuanced around that. There are so that's another piece. If I were to say in terms of, I'm going to go just like a little deeper around Black Voters Matter. And then I'll open up for some questions for the last couple of minutes that I have. Black Voters Matter has a particular model. And let me just kind of share kind of some of part of our model that I think worked. We all hear it when we're in Political Science 101. We all hear it in Poli Sci 101. All politics are local, but for some reason we don't believe it. And the political parties don't believe it, right? We believe that the top of the ticket drives the ticket.
right.
It's kind of like the same thinking that there's trickle down economics. You all know, like I know, that how has that worked out for our community? Just like trickle down economics don't work, trickle down power doesn't work, trickle down politics doesn't work. And so really the value is, how do you engage from the ground up? If your plant has roots, right, then your plant will grow. And
These are
so,
words.
and so I think it's really important that your work is always rooted. And the way that you root your work is that you build out an infrastructure that are in local communities. So there's a couple of things that Black Voters Matter did that was different, that we were not looking for just the organizations that do civic engagement work. Because oftentimes those are not, in some communities, there's not an organization, or maybe very few. We were looking for, who are the organizations that show up and respond to the community needs, including the organizations that do civic engagement work. And so while our work is Black Voters Matter, our goal is to do power building, which means that we're supporting and funding organizations. We're funding organizations that are doing work around maternal mortality. Like, what does that have to do with voting rights? Everything, right? Or groups that are doing civic engagement, groups that are doing police reform. And so what we're doing is making a connection with those organizations in the context of power building, that they're the ones that are on the front lines, but they also have relationships, and they also have a vested interest because they all have their policy implications that impact their work. And so we're engaging a new expanding and building out the ecosystem by investing in those organizations. This current election cycle, we contributed from $5,000 to over $300,000 to over 600 plus groups, Black-led community groups. I would challenge, I don't know if there's any other organization that has invested. We personally, our organization invested millions of dollars in Black-led community groups that were indigenous in communities. We're currently in the state of Georgia working in 50 counties where we're literally investing directly, sending dollars directly to over 48, well, actually now it's over 60 organizations, grassroots groups that are too small to be able to apply for apply for grants from a foundation. Many of them have their 501c3, or they have a fiscal agent. But the bottom line is, we're looking to fund who shows up and literally be able to operate. The second piece is, aside from the investment, is to really be able to serve as a coordinating role, as an intermediary. So one of the things that we do is that we don't have Black Voters Matter chapters, because we don't want an empire build. We were not trying to get into space and it's about Black Voters Matter. We were providing a campaign context, so that for us, the campaign is Black Voters Matter. The candidate is Black Power. And so it gives everybody the opportunity and a space to plug in. We're lifting up their brand. We're lifting up their narrative. So instead of us being a competing force, we're literally creating a brand and a platform for them to literally be able to tap into a campaign that's not necessarily centered around a candidate or a political party, right? But it's really centered around Black people and the Black community getting power. In addition to that, The third point that I'll say is that we've been very intentional in our 5 principles to lift up the work of Black women. We unapologetically say that. That does not mean that we exclusively only work with Black
Yes.
women. That means that we intentionally support Black women. And so of our 3 buckets, there's a bucket around resourcing the work, where we literally are putting money and investment on the ground. There's a bucket of our work that we're literally serving as a coordinating vehicle to really an intermediary. Sometimes we have to actually help teach our people how to do GOTV. Sometimes we have to augment their work by providing other support for them on how to put it together. We've actually supported and probably funded about 20 organizations in just a filing of their 501c3, right? In addition to that, we've supported we give them resources like phone banking and text banking, and we give them the technology. We train them, give them access to the data. Sometimes a data list may be $3,000. Those groups don't, $3,000 is a lot for grassroots groups. We just pay for it and give them the list, right? So that they can be empowered and use that list and use that technology. And then the last bucket, which is really important, is around narrative shift. You know, we, instead of this message, my grandmother used to say, you know, baby, you got to speak life into folks. Instead of this message of fear, gloom, and doom, that if we don't do this, the Black community is going to, like, we're not going to survive. That's not our message. Our message is, you have power. And yes, there are these people that are trying to do these things to our community, but we've got power. And when we work together, guess what? We can win.
Right.
And there's something about that message around literally speaking into the affirmative, that we affirm that we are Black people, that we affirm that we are, that we have power. That's something about that resonates. And so the last thing I'll say, and then there may be a couple of questions before I leave. The last thing that I'll say is that there are millions of dollars that the Democratic Party is spending on campaign aids. Millions and millions of dollars that the campaign is spending on TV ads right now. There's a consultant class, a political consulting class in this country that has a vested interest, you know, and when the parties are spending millions and billions of dollars on TV. What we've decided to do in this election, and as we look at the money, the resources, can it be twofold? Can we use and direct our money in a way that actually it is an investment in our community and it's helping to get results? And so for this election, even in the state of Georgia, what we're doing is we're actually doing toy and food drives. And on Thanksgiving, we fed 5,000. We provided Thanksgiving boxes of food, fresh vegetables, of hens and turkeys to over 5,000 families across the state of Georgia. In addition to that, we connected with the Black farmers and we just bought out everything they had. We had collard greens, y'all, they were the prettiest collard greens you want to see too. Collard greens and organic vegetables for days. We just told the farmers to show up at our spaces that people could come and get fresh fruits and vegetables. What we have discovered is when you show up to people based on their needs, folks will show up for you. That fundamentally what we have had this extractive process in our community, that people only come around when they want something from us, right? But they're not acknowledging that there's a need that we have. And so part of our work, even currently, we have been doing Christmas caravans where we're literally, once again, we're providing toys, 500 families to each of the sites that we're going to on early voting. We're setting it up right across from an early voting site. We get them there. We talk to them about early voting. We got people to take them right over there, right? We're literally giving food and groceries. And we're also providing toys, and we got Soul Santa with us. And we have music and literally we're creating an environment and a culture of that we're affirming each other, that we care about you more than just about your vote. We care about you. And so we recognize that there are 4 million people in the state of Georgia that have filed for unemployment. We recognize that many Black businesses have been struggling and suffering right now. And so when part of that has also been a strategy around disinformation. So those that come in our community that spread disinformation, and those that come in our community and we're feeding our people and looking out for their
Mhm.
needs, who do y'all
Mhm.
think they're gonna listen to?
Right.
Right. So
Right.
it creates a certain level of relationship and credibility when we're
Yeah.
showing up. There are races that when we go
Mm.
into a community, we just don't support what it is that we want to support and tell them what they want to support. There are communities that we've gone in and they say, we don't, yeah, we know it's a governor's race coming on, but we want this school board seat. That is the most important thing for us. And guess what we do? We say, okay, if you all want the school board seat, we're with you on the school board. The bottom line is, what is really empowering is when you're showing up for communities in the way that they determine that you show up for them.
Yes.
And so I'll
Yes.
stop there because there may be
Yes.
questions, but I'll stop there.
Oh my. Okay, that was so much. That answered a lot of questions. Okay, that was everything I asked for, everything I wanted, everything I asked for. So the two questions that we have that I'm going to call on, I got two. One is if you could, and I know you mentioned this, but how much money do you need for good organizing?
So, you know what? I don't know if it is. I'm gonna get in trouble for this question. I'm a fundraiser. I mean, that's what I do really well, and I work in philanthropy. So, I'm
Mhm.
often when I'm doing training, telling people you always got to have a number. You always got to have a number, right? But I'm gonna not follow my own advice right now. Let me tell you all what it is. Let me tell you what's really important and powerful. What we have found out, it really isn't about the money. I'm gonna give 3 examples. It is about the money. It's not about the money. I know that
Mhm.
sounds whatever, but let me give 3 examples. That part of what happens in our community is that it has been a traumatic experience of how philanthropy has dealt with us.
Mhm.
And that those folks that show up to do this work, most of those folks, 99% of those folks that are doing this work are not doing this work because of money, right? They
Mhm.
just really aren't, right? What the money does is it does a number of things. One, the money does the obvious. It helps them to be able to build capacity to do their work.
Mhm.
But the other thing that the money does is that we underestimate is the money affirms them, right?
Mhm.
It says that we believe in you. So one of
Right.
the strategies that we use with Black Voters Matter, this is why I say it's not about the money. There are groups now that we've given up to $200,000, $300,000 to. But the groups that we work with, once we do our due diligence to find out that there's a group that has community credibility, that they're anchored in the work, that they're actually doing power building work, they have anchored leadership, indigenous leadership.
Mhm.
Before we do anything, and we know that we want to work with them, we give them $1,000. Now, $1,000 is not a lot of money, but we'll give them $1,000, and normally they'll say, "Well, what y'all want for the $1,000?" We was like, "Nothing. Like, we're giving you this $1,000 to tell you, as to let you know that we already recognize you all have been doing the work, that you
Mhm.
have been doing the work. We see you. We're investing in you. We believe in you. Here's $1,000." Well, what we got to do? We got to do a proposal? Absolutely not. We're asking you what it does. Let me tell y'all what that $1,000 does. The $1,000 is a trust. It shifts the
Right.
dynamics, this power dynamic,
Yes.
that you have to prove to me that you worthy of my money. Isn't that what Black folks always got to prove to somebody, that we
Mhm.
worthy?
Mhm.
Like, if you've been doing the work, you've proven to us, right?
Right.
And so for us, what we do now, of course, we have to do due diligence. And so as we move forward, we do have an application and we have a granting process when people are applying for granting dollars. But
Mhm.
the first $1,000 investment we make with no strings attached. We don't require anything but the basic information, so we can actually, in terms of our accounting, right, that
Mhm.
as an initial investment to show up differently. When you show up differently, and let me tell you what that's done. One of the communities we work with in Georgia, we kept asking him what he needed, but he wasn't trusting of the money. So he was like, no, he didn't really want to take money from us. And I'm quite sure you all have
Mhm.
ran across that before.
Yeah.
And was like, what do you need? He said, you know what? I need a megaphone. So we actually sent him $250 to catch him at it, because he thought we weren't going to do it. Because
Mhm.
he thought that y'all ain't going to respond to what I said I did. Y'all won't give me $1,000, but all I want was a megaphone. So it was like, fine. We sent him a $250 to get in his megaphone.
Mhm.
He went and took over the city hall, y'all. Went downtown, took over City Hall, They shut the street down, had 100 people. And so when next time we saw, we said, if we knew you gonna do that for $250, shoot, can we have a steak for 1,000?
Okay.
And I cannot tell you all how much trust
Mm-hmm.
was built in
That
us
built.
giving the $250 because it
Yes.
wasn't the money. It
Mm-hmm.
was, he felt empowered. He told us what he needed, and
Mm-hmm.
we responded without judgment to what
Mm-hmm.
he needed. And
Mm-hmm.
it created a space of empowerment. The second
Mm-hmm.
thing is we were standing on the corner organizing in Alabama a couple of weeks ago. And a woman came up to us and gave us a whole handful of change. It was probably about $10 worth of change. She said, "This is all I got, but I want to invest in Black Voters Matter." And out of all of the millions of dollars that we've received,
Mm-hmm.
nobody on my team, including the people, our partners, will ever forget that.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most blessed money. Every time we're writing a check, I was like, that's a little bit of that $10, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the way that she came, the spirit in which she came and brought the money was what she said was, it wasn't about the money, it was, I believe in you.
Right.
I want to be a part of this. And so sometimes we can use our money in ways that it's not about the enormous amount. It is affirming those groups that we believe in you. We know that this is $500 or $5,000, but we're going to give you this money because we are standing with you. You
Mm-hmm.
would be amazed at how many groups to receive those smaller dollars are grateful. Now, I'm not saying that as much as we should write a check, we should write a check. But there's something about of giving money that is also affirming that we
Mm-hmm.
stand with you and we believe in you. So I'm gonna like go against my
Regardless of
own,
what you're doing and against
regardless of what
judgment
you're
of what
doing.
you, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think the way to get to the number is, one, ask people what it is that they need,
Mm-hmm.
and that they really need, right?
Right.
I usually take it off money. I usually say, so if money's not an issue, if you had $1
Mm-hmm.
million right now, like what would you spend it on? And once you kind of take money off the table, you can start getting from them specifically what it is that they need, right?
Okay.
And then show up as a partner, not as a grantor, right? With that
Mm-hmm.
kind of power
With
dynamic.
authority, right.
Um,
Yeah.
with that authority,
Wow.
but that we believe
Mm-hmm.
in you. And yes, we're all going to be accountable because we're going to make ourselves accountable to you as we expect you to
Mm-hmm.
be. We're going to be accountable to each other.
Right.
And then the third and the last thing I'll say that is related to the amount kind of money is, there are times that what we've done is that we've actually created an incentive for people to work together,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that we've able to do like some joint funding to ask, like, as a coalition, you all come to us with a coalition and bring a proposal, so you can actually use your money not to be not to do a forced marriage, but those folks that want to work together, that you create that kind of opportunity. So I'm a little resistant in saying what I think a bottom number, because literally,
Right.
y'all, I have organized a campaign and
Mm-hmm.
won campaigns. Our first race we flipped in Americus, Georgia. We spent $1,750, less than $2,000, that we got a seat. And then we've got campaigns that we've literally spent close to, well, even this campaign, millions of dollars in. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
really around the temperature and what the need is, and really
Mm-hmm.
being able to meet whatever that need, even in organizing. Like, are the groups need convening resources? Do they need access to data? What is a basic fundamental need that they have in the, and you may have to phase
Mm-hmm.
out or phase it, see it in terms of phases. So I hope that's helpful. I hope my answer is helpful.
100%. Always.
Okay.
Believe me. Yes, always. Okay. So
And my attorneys are texting me, so I'm gonna have to
I was like,
go.
it's
I'll see.
1:37. What we gonna
Yes.
do? We got one more question or we out?
Okay.
Okay.
One more question. Come on, one more
Okay.
question.
Okay. This is an easy one. How do Texas organizations connect with Black Voters Matter campaign to get support in this battleground state? But this is what I want. I want to change that question. I don't like that question. No offense, Pam. Will Black Voters Matter come to Texas and do some? And I know I'm putting you on the front. If there's a class
No,
or
you're
a
not.
course or something that we can come together and pull our organizations together and just have a real heart-to-heart conversation and help us form and help us, gather ourselves and do this. And,
So let me say this. Tracy and Pam. Actually, thank you for that question. Let me say, I'm gonna cut straight to the chase. Y'all know I'm used to Black women. I'm one of them, so I
okay,
understand. We don't be playing around. Pam, like, come on now, girl. What we gonna do?
right.
Like,
How
I'm
we
with
get
you
this.
now. That's who I am. And so I understand. So a couple of things. One, we were resistant, but guess what, y'all? We got pulled into Texas this year.
I know.
And
Yes.
we wound up doing some investment, and we would be glad to work with supporting you all. Anything in terms of our model, what it is that we could partner around. If there's ways that we could do joint funding where that it will actually leverage the dollars that you all have,
Mhm.
if it's a matter of showing
Oh, I'm
you all
looking the
really
wrong way.
talking through our model or planning, we are 100% supportive of that. Y'all gotta wait till after January the 5th now.
Oh,
At
for
least give
sure.
me
Without a
February.
doubt.
Because
No.
I am trying to take a vacation at least at some point in this,
Right.
in this
Okay.
process. But
We'll wait
we
till
would
Black History
certainly,
Month. Look, for Black History
right.
Month, we'll talk about it for February. How about that?
Absolutely. So
Yes.
we want you all to be successful. We need you all to be
Mhm.
successful. And so however you all kind of determine the best way for us to be supportive, if it's as a learning partner, is it as an exchange partner, is it as a funded partner, however we can be supportive, we would love to be supportive.
Okay, great. Now I have two things that I'm gonna say to you. One, look, I'm pointing the wrong way because I'm looking at your square and trying to make attention to the camera. Okay, so one, Black Voters Matters was supportive of the Black Women's PAC's effort to help the 19 Black Girl Magic win in 2018. So I want everybody to know that Black Voters Matter was in Texas in 2018 and already doing the work and helping us then.
Right.
Two, I met LaTosha Brown at the Black Campaign School, and believe me, I was a fan. I was seeking her and ended up sitting down next to her and took an hour ride around Houston. And she talked all about Black Voters Matters and about helping the Black community and how instrumental it was. And just so nice and gracious and all of that. And now here we are in 2020 where she is just blown up and MSNBC can't get enough. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And I know it, was, you doing a whole lot. And I just appreciate you taking out this time to sit with us. We look forward to seeing you in February by Zoom in person. Please tell Cliff thank you as well. And we're going to shut this down because I know you got to go. So
we will do that. So two things I'll say, just two quick announcements. Speaking of MSNBC, this evening I'm actually doing an IG live. I'm trying to get my Instagram up, y'all. My niece talked about me so bad. I got Facebook on lock, and I'm pretty good on Twitter, but
yeah.
I'm hurting on the Instagram. And so my niece told me that Facebook was for old people. I was like, what? Really?
Right. That's what they tell
Right.
me. Okay.
That's what they tell me, right? I was like,
Yeah.
whatever, right? I bet you. I'm like, I organize. But
Exactly.
this evening at 6:30, if you all are open or available, please come on. Actress Carrie Washington and I will be in a discussion on her Instagram, might be on my Instagram page as well. But make sure you check us out. We'll be talking about Georgia, Georgia on our mind.
Right.
And so that's 6:30 Eastern. And then later tonight, I'll be on Lawrence O'Donnell tonight at 10:30, 11 or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, that's not as important. The Carrie Washington thing, if y'all can join us for
Right.
that'd be great.
And also,
And then Tracy, thank you. I
okay.
appreciate you so much. I'm ready to come back and hang out because we said we're gonna hang out. It's been too long.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And look, and did I tell y'all LaTosha took time out to follow Prince around the world? Don't miss
Sure
that
did.
story. Okay.
I
Don't miss
will
that.
tell you all about that.
Okay, yes. And thank you, Sybil and Yolanda Starks White. Y'all got to catch Sybil's show on God dog it, on YouTube. I'll post it on the Facebook page.
Let me tell
So
y'all,
other people
I'm
can.
like, Sybil, if Sybil is on, I miss you. We miss you, Sybil. It ain't the
Yes.
same. We miss you, Sybil. Like,
Okay.
wait, let me tell y'all, if anybody wanted to know that Sybil Wicks is real deal, Sybil is the real deal. Sybil flew
Yes.
into Atlanta, Georgia, and I was trying to let her be a celebrity, but she was like, I'm with you. I was like, well, all right then.
No,
Right. Sybil was out in the streets with us. Sybil went out and we went to talk to folks in the neighborhoods. We were down on the country roads. We were on the blackest bus in America. And so if there is one sister that I love that I can tell y'all is the real deal Holyfield, I know y'all already know that. In Texas, it is Sybil. Sybil was a blessing for us.
Yes, simple is beautiful all the time. But so are you too,
Absolutely.
LaTosha. Look, y'all just two beautiful souls just crashing together. It's really
That's
good.
right.
So
That's how God bring us together. So, all right,
exactly.
sisters, I'll talk to y'all
Okay.
later. I need to call these lawyers because they
Thank
probably
you.
think I lost my mind.
All
All
righty.
right.
Y'all take care.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye. And
Thank
Black
you.
Voter Matters link is in the chat. If you guys donate to Black Voters Matter, it's in the chat. Also, the Black Women's PAC donation is in the chat as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, y'all. I know this was great, live and wonderful, and we look forward to seeing LaTosha in February after all of this is over. Let's get organized and let's win in Texas. All right. Peace out.